Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome, bitter clinger-oners, stinkos, dregs of society. All you hateful people, as Joe Biden would refer to us, who support the president. Welcome, everyone who loves America and believes that it is the greatest nation on earth. You are always welcome here at the Conservative Commandos radio and television show. I'm George Landrith, and I'm coming to you from the Conservative Commandos studio. I am your co-host today, or your host today. As you can see, I'm here alone. Normally, we have two co-hosts, but due to a technical difficulty, we couldn't make that happen. So the show must go on, and so you're stuck with me today. As I said, I'm George Landrith. I'm the president and CEO of Frontiers of Freedom. You can find them at ff.org, and I am one of your loyal and devoted Conservative Commandos hosts, and I'm happy to be here because this is the place to be. Now, we are coming to you, as I said, on the Conservative Commandos radio network and the AUN TV network, and if you aren't near one of the many TV and radio broadcast towers that carries the Conservative Commandos, you can always go to our website and watch and listen to us. That would be ccrshow.com. You know, we've got a lot to talk about today. I sometimes wish we had a slow news day or a slow news week, but we haven't had one of those in a long, long time. There's always something to talk about. I thought I might start off with something I thought was very curious. Taylor Swift, the recording artist, who's become politically active of late, as she declared apparently recently, according to news reports, that she's a Christian. I don't normally question people's values or their claim of Christianity because it's between them and God. I don't know what's going on there. But this is the other claim she makes, which I think I do have a right to question. She says people with real Christian values support abortion. Okay, interesting. I'm not sure where she's getting that from. I'm pretty sure I missed that in the Bible. My recollection is Christ himself said that those who harm the little ones would be better off with a millstone. You've seen those big stones that are, round like a donut, but about the size of a car, would be put around their neck and dropped into the ocean. You imagine what that would be like. I think that's called drowning. But at any rate, what I find curious about this, though, is Christianity and, of course, Western civilization has become one of the foundational elements of it is that we are endowed by our Creator, that God is the source of our rights, that we are His children, and as a result, He has given us rights like life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And, of course, we've created governments with the theory that we want them to protect the rights that God gave us. But according to Taylor Swift, that first one about life is not so important, I guess. Abortion's where it's at. Go figure. I just find it amusing that Hollywood keeps speaking and keeps telling us how out of touch they are and how completely devoid of any reason or logic they are. I mean, let's be honest now. The left now supports abortion into the fourth trimester. For those who don't know what trimesters mean, that means there's really only 3 trimesters. The fourth trimester, the baby's born. You can say, wait a minute, they don't support abortion after the baby's born. And my answer to you is, yes, they do. If you listen to Governor Northam, or as I call him, Governor Blackface, or Governor Klan Robes of Virginia, he very clearly defended the idea that a baby could be born alive and subsequently aborted. You got that right. Let that sink in. And of course, the Democrats just recently, in this past year, have rallied their support to kill a bill which would require medical attention to be given to babies who are born alive, even if it were during a botched abortion. So in other words, if the baby is born in the process and born alive, at that point they would have to be treated like any other patient in the hospital. Guess who said, no, we can't have that? You got it, the left. So they have become just radical extremists on this point of view. Let's shift gears. In the news, you've probably, I'm sure, heard about Bubba Wallace. He is the NASCAR driver, full-time, only black full-time driver in NASCAR. Apparently, his pit crew, he found what they claimed was a noose. It was actually a piece of rope in their garage, and they claimed that it was a noose left there to intimidate and to as a hate crime. The FBI came storming down. The press has covered it with great vigor. We've heard all about that, of course. I think it was 15 to 17, somewhere in there. It was in the teens. FBI agents investigated it for several days, and then they came to the conclusion that it wasn't, in fact, a noose at all. It wasn't a hate crime. It wasn't what we were told at all. It was simply the piece of rope that is used to pull the garage door back down on one of those really tall garages in a commercial facility, not a residential garage, where you'd have to be like 10 feet tall to reach up and grab it. So you tie a piece of rope to the end of it. It has a loop on it so you can grab it with your hand and pull it back down. And I've seen a picture of it, and guess what? It's a loop about the size to fit your hand through and a wrist through. But nonetheless, Bubba is standing by his story. It was flat out, he says, a noose. The FBI looks at it and says, nope. They show a picture of it. It was there in video. They saw as far back as last October, of course, hanging on the garage door, doing precisely what it was intended to do. Now, this reminds us all, I guess, of Jesse Smollett, and it's kind of odd to me. But then you look at another story in the news. Not quite as big a story, but still got some coverage. At a college in Maryland, Salisbury University, a student pointed out, and it said that there was some racist graffiti that was painted, and it showed racial animosity and so forth, and it had the N-word and other things and so forth. But anyhow, so the school canceled classes for a day of healing. They hired a new vice president for diversity and inclusion at a salary of $140,000 a year. And they have now found out that the suspect, turns out, is a black student or a black person. I don't know if he's a student or not. Actually, probably maybe not a student, because I think he's like, in his 50s. But anyhow, he defaced the property. Apparently, I picked that up on some cameras, and they know who it is. So I guess my point is, I think we ought to take with a grain of salt all these reports we see telling us that there's all this racist activity going on. I would point out that, now, I don't take racism lightly. I think racism is a big deal. But the media and the left take it lightly because they call everything racism. Even if a person just inarticulately kind of expresses themselves poorly or expresses ignorance about a culture, it's always, oh, that's racism. Racism ought to involve a disdain and dislike and meaning harm on some other group or race, but not to them. It can just be that you didn't know. But bottom line is, in this case, people can pretend to be racist, like Jesse Smollett, this guy at Salisbury University, or Bubba Wallace and his pit crew. And I think it's time we understand something. America really isn't a racist nation. Sure, there are probably a few racist. I'm not saying there aren't, but it's not a racist nation. I mean, we did elect a black president. I didn't vote for him because I didn't agree with his positions, but America elected him. And America witnessed the killing of George Floyd, and we were appalled, almost universally appalled. And so, again, that is not the sort of behavior you'd see out of a nation that's racist. And yet that's what we hear. And so I find it very frustrating, and I kind of wish that we could be honest and have real discussions. But too much of our world is wrapped around, we're not going to let you talk about it. We're just going to call you racist. We're going to scare you out of talking about it, but we're going to try to tar you with that label. And I think we need to stand up to it and say we're not going to put up with it. But we are up against the clock and we need to take a break. I do want to remind you that you are viewing and listening to Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landrith, and I am your Conservative Commandos host today. As I said, normally we'd have two, but we had a technical difficulty. So, as I said, the show must go on. And so I'm filling in for the two of us and trying to do the job. I'll probably do about half as well as two of us would do, but I'm glad you're here and sticking with us. We're coming to you on the Conservative Commandos radio network, which is broadcast all across this great nation in Florida, California, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Washington, D.C., Nevada, Colorado, Wisconsin, and Georgia. And, of course, we're coming to you on the AUN TV network that is broadcast in California and in Nevada. And, of course, we're carried to you around the entire world on Al Gore's amazing internet. We're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos radio network, and Don't go away. We will be right back.
Mom, thank God you're gonna be okay.
So relieved. But you both should know when my time comes, I have a final expense policy with Senior Care USA.
Is Senior Care USA the life insurance policy that helps loved ones pay for funeral expenses and other debts? Bill and I called to get more information.
Yes, and there's an immediate payout of up to $50,000.
If you're over 50, call Senior Care USA now to learn more about final expense insurance plans.
There's no medical exam, even if you have a pre-existing condition like I do. But when I called, the quote was free, and there was no pressure.
I found out that policies start for as little as 35 cents a day. Rates will never increase and coverage won't decrease.
I'm gonna call today.
Ask about the free prescription discount card. Oh, I'm so glad you'll be taken care of.
Call 1-800-822-7419. That's 1-800-822-7419.
But is it? It's really just the beginning, right? Have you written a book and want it published but don't know where to start? You're not alone. Page Publishing cuts through the confusion that most new authors face, like copyright protection, barcodes, printing, and digital uploading. We will get your book into bookstores now. We guide you through the publishing maze and help you distribute and sell your work in hard copy and ebook formats. That's right. We will digitize and place your book for sale on Amazon, Apple iBooks, and Google, offering it to millions. Don't waste another minute. Most publishers won't even look at new author submissions, but we're different. We review your book and provide you feedback in about a week. If we decide to publish your book, your work ends and ours begins. From copy editing and proofing to typesetting and book cover art, our team gets you into bookstores fast.
Call 1-877-461-5033.
Does your current bathroom need to be updated immediately? Introducing One Day Bath and Shower Remodeling, the complete and hassle-free way to get the new bathroom of your dreams in as little as 1 day, and for as little as $199 a month. Yes, the experts at One Day Bath and Shower Remodeling will come to you anywhere in the country and show you all the customized options. Now you can have a brand new bathroom in as little as 1 day. Large or small bathrooms, if you want a new bathtub or shower installed, we can do it in as little as 1 day. And if you call right now, you can save $750 off your remodel. We make it easy by offering you financing as low as $199 per month. So for as little as $199 a month, you can finally have the bathroom of your dreams. Call now to schedule your free in-home consultation.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos, the radio show and the television show, carried on both the AUN TV network and the Conservative Commandos radio network, and broadcast all across this great nation as well, besides those broadcast towers on Al Gore's amazing internet. We truly are everywhere. I realize not quite everywhere, because I don't think we're on Mars, and we're definitely probably not in China, unless someone knows how to, bootleg us on the internet, because the Chinese regime will not allow freedom to get a fair hearing. So I'm sure they don't like the Conservative Commandos. But aside from North Korea, China, and Iran, we are virtually everywhere. I'm George Landrith. I'm your co-host today. This is the place to be. I do want to remind you, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of our show, if you want to see one as well, just go to our website, ccrshow.com. And also remember to like us, friend us, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just look for the Conservative Commandos. I want to tell you a little about our guests. We're going to have some great guests here, and fortunately, I think our technology will allow that to happen. So we're looking forward to hearing from Tom Del Beccaro. He's a friend of the show, and he is someone we have on the show all the time. We are also, he writes for Epic Times, for Fox News, former chairman of the Republican Party in California and candidate for the Senate in California. So looking forward to talk to him about a lot of the things we've been seeing in the news and talking about some of the presidential issues in the election, some polling data, and I think that'll be a very good conversation. And then we've got Dan Gainor, another friend of the show, the Vice President for Business and Culture at the Media Research Center. He tracks what the media does. He writes on and critiques the bias we see. I don't think it's really bias anymore. It's actually much worse than bias. It's just outright, they are lying sacks of rotting fecal matter half the time. But we'll hear from Dan Gainor. It should be a very good conversation. And then our last guest is Benton Howser. He's a financial expert. He's a financier, a hedge fund manager. Prior to his current work, he spent time in D.C. working in the think tank world on economic issues, economic mobility, monetary policy, and of course, he is also a captain in the Army Reserve. He got his bachelor's degree from Virginia Tech down in Blacksburg, Virginia, and he also got his MBA from the University of Illinois. So we'll look forward to talking to him about some of the market issues, how it's affecting the election, how it's affecting how the COVID virus, the Chinese virus, and the all the rioting and the unrest we see, how that's impacting the election and the markets. It should again be a very, very good conversation. But before we, before the break, we were talking about some of the weird things that we've noticed, whether it's Hollywood telling us what a good Christian needs to believe or what, but lots of craziness going on. I think it was interesting, too, though, to see this on the left. In Virginia, protesters actually entered Mayor Stoney of Richmond's apartment building and vandalized it. Of course, Mayor Stoney's been allowing them to tear down statues, engage in other acts of violence and destruction. And then, of course, in Olympia, Washington, the mayor has been very outspoken in favor of the protesters, showing anger when people refer to them as rioters. But interestingly enough, when the protesters vandalized her home and endangered her and her family, she decided that they were domestic terrorists. Overnight, they went from being mere protesters, jumped right over rioters and went straight to domestic terrorists. I think it's kind of interesting. On the left, they'll support you as long as you're helping them get more power and achieve the goals that they have in mind. But as soon as you endanger them, then they come back to reality. The example is there's a Democratic candidate in Texas, Kim Olson. And her response to the looting and the destruction and the burning of everything was, quote unquote, so what? Burn it down to the ground if that's what it takes. Wow, imagine electing that to Congress. AOC doesn't need more of that craziness in Washington, but this is what you've got now from the left. Burn it to the ground if that's what it takes. Now, what do they mean by if that's what it takes? Because America was on board with condemning what happened to Mr. Floyd. They were on board with getting justice for Mr. Floyd. So what do they want to burn it down if that's what it takes? They're talking about getting the power that they want. They're not talking about justice. They're not talking about any of that. They're talking about something much darker, which is they will burn the country to the ground if they think it helps them politically. And I think it's good to remember that. These are extremists. These are people with very, very dangerous views. I don't mean they're dangerous because I disagree with them. I mean because they're dangerous because they're destroying people's property. They're killing people. It's like mayhem. We don't need mayhem. They've killed a lot more people in this riot than they claim that that they're rioting about. So it's just I think bottom line is I don't think we should take them seriously when they say they're trying to fix the country. No, as Kim Olson told us from Texas, running for Congress, they want to burn it to the ground if that's what it takes. Sean King, for example, a bigwig in Bernie Sanders' campaign, was there to help him kick off his campaign and introduce him and everything when he kicked off. He says that Jesus is a form of white supremacy and that he and his European mother need to go. In fact, he says they need to all come down, and specifically said that stained glass windows all across America, any statuaries of Jesus Christ, of Mary, need to come down. Interesting. So all those, it used to be that they didn't want to have, nativity scenes on government-owned property. Now they don't want them in churches. How dare you have them in your own church? Now, you may ask, wait a minute, they can't do that. We have the First Amendment, freedom of religion. Well, you might think that, but beware, they don't think that's what it means anymore. That's why so many governors were making it a crime to attend church. I'm all about being smart. And so my church, for example, canceled church services during the pandemic. In fact, we still have not yet met. We've had, virtual church services and things like that. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But that's because it's a choice. But the governors, many of the most crazy ones, Virginia's, Mr. Northam, you look up in New York and you look in Michigan and many other states, they made it a crime, said you cannot go to church. And they asked other citizens to spy on people to see if they were going to church so they could arrest them. Meanwhile, they're letting people out of prison so they won't get COVID. Okay, I gotcha. So the guy that committed violent crimes, we don't want him to get the disease. But if a mom's playing with her kids in the park or you go to church, we'll put them in jail and they can get the disease because we don't really care about them. And so I hope you guys understand that the First Amendment, as wonderful as it is, we have a huge contingent of Americans who no longer believe it matters. They've effectively removed it from the First Amendment. If you look at their copy of the Constitution, they've torn it out. It's not there, and they don't accept it. That's the only way you can get the results they're coming to. So this is another reason why we have to make sure that we have a Supreme Court that is going to defend the Constitution as written and not as these people would like it to believe. Can you imagine a world in which it's okay just to go through churches and ransack them because you don't like the artwork they have? So, it's pretty crazy. Some of the toppling that's gone on, the mobs have torn down a monument to Holocaust survivors. They've also torn down or vandalized the World War II memorial in Washington. Interestingly enough, those really were true anti-fascists. Those soldiers defeated fascism. But the so-called anti-fascists vandalized those who truly were anti-fascists. That's because, quite frankly, the anti-fascists aren't actually anti-fascists. They themselves are fascists. They are anarchists. They do not seek a better world. They seek a world in which they have more power, in which they can bully and scare people. That's another reason why they want to get rid of the police, because the police stand between them and their goals. And so it's just interesting to see if these people are serious about the things they claim they want to do. And the answer is, of course, they're not. They're not serious. They're dangerous. And we have to admit that fact. But we are up against the clock, and we want to make sure that we get to our first guest. I'm excited to have a conversation with Tom Del Beccaro. And so with that, I will tell you, you're listening and viewing the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landrith. We're coming to the Conservative Commandos radio network, the AUN TV network, and of course, we are also coming to you on Al Gore's amazing internet, TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Net Talk America, and AMFM 24/7. And of course, our own website, ccrshow.com. Don't go away. Tom and I will be right back.
Attention homeowners. Do you have a house that's in need of serious repairs? Do you have tenants that never seem to make their monthly payments? How about code violations, past due taxes, or maintenance costs you just can't afford? Then call my friends right now at Quick Cash Offer. They specialize in buying any home, no matter how ugly the situation. Turn that problem property into cash right now. It's just that simple. One call and you can get rid of that home headache forever. They buy the ugliest houses with instant closings, instant cash, and huge savings. Plus, there are no realtor fees, no listing fees, and no repair costs. Just cash in your hands for that painful property. They're buying a few more houses in your neighborhood this month. So take advantage of this cash offer and call Quick Cash Offer now.
855-296-8854. 855-296-8854. That's 855-296-8854.
Listen carefully. If your student loan debt is overwhelming you and things seem hopeless, we've got great news.
If you're still struggling with your student loan debt, there are government programs available that may actually lower your payments by consolidating your federal student loans. Just call us. We'll review your situation and work with you to consolidate your debt. In many cases, depending on your situation, we can lower your monthly payments in half or more. It doesn't matter how much you owe or how far behind you are. Even if you're in default, call us right now to find out how we can lower your payment in half immediately. You can stop the harassing phone calls and the wage garnishments. All you need to do is pick up the phone and call us right now. We can remove your default status, consolidate your federal student loans, lower your payments, and we can do it today. Stop worrying. This is a real solution that can help. So please call us right now.
Call 800-917-8671.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you and all seniors from the Final Expense Insurance Hotline. The average funeral costs about $7,000, even more. And the most government benefits will pay your family is only $255. That leaves your loved ones with a burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay up to $30,000 for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam and you'll have lifetime coverage. Plus, your rates will never increase and your plan cannot be canceled regardless of your medical condition, as long as you make your premium payments. Get free information right now. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 855-221-7334.
Do you have an idea for an invention, but you don't know what to do next?
How do you get in front of companies or get a patent?
Call InventHelp. They've been helping inventors just like you for 35 years.
And thousands of people contact them every month.
With 65 offices, you can meet with an InventHelp representative near you who will keep your idea confidential and explain their invention process step by step. InventHelp has helped over 10,000 inventors get patents. And they offer 3D animations and prototyping services to help demonstrate your idea. InventHelp's exclusive databank includes over 9,000 companies who have agreed to confidentially review new ideas, like yours.
Don't wonder what to do next. Take action right now and get the help you need from InventHelp.
InventHelp. Call today for free information.
800-880-2937. That's 800-880-2937 now.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos, the radio show and the television show. Thanks to the Conservative Commandos radio network, broadcast all across this great nation, the AUN TV network as well, carrying us in California and Nevada. And of course, if you're not near one of the many broadcast towers, you always have Al Gore's amazing internet. I'm George Landrith, and I'm glad you're here with us at the Conservative Commandos. This is the place to be. If you want to catch a rebroadcast, check out our website, CCRShow.com. We have with us a program favorite, one of my favorites as well, Tom Del Beccaro. He is a columnist at Fox News. He's at Epoch Times. He's also the former chairman of the California Republican Party and a former U.S. Senate candidate from California. He's the author of a book you definitely need to read, The Divided Era, and also The New Conservative Paradigm. You can catch his stuff at thepoliticalvanguard.com and also tomdell.com. But I just want to say, Tom, it's great to have you. We always enjoy in the program. Insightful, interesting, educational. Great to have you back.
It's great to be on, and I think it's amazing how much can happen in between my visits with you, but things are pretty interesting. You saw the New York primaries, the desire to take out AOC and the amount of money spent by her challenger proved her staying power and where the Democrat Party is these days, because she raised an enormous amount of money. She won easily in her district, getting many, many more votes than she did the last time around. And there were other cases. You saw Engel lose, or likely will lose, his seat in New York as well. So the Democrat Party continues to move left. And we saw an interesting interview with the Green Party, head of the Green Party, saying that they're going to stick in this election because they believe that they can force the Democrat Party to move even farther left.
Is there much room to the left, or they just drop off, off somewhere? Because I'm not really sure that they can get a lot more left than they are right now.
Yeah, and well, you're right.
I guess they could go for fifth trimester abortions instead of just fourth trimester abortions, their current position. They could go to taking all of your income instead of just half of it.
Well, which brings up the vice presidential nominee. I know we're going to talk a little bit about polls, but yesterday Joe Biden, quote, clinched the nomination. There's been a lot of talk over the months about whether he somehow would be replaced by someone else. But their quasi-convention is just weeks away now, and he's going to be their nominee, and he's going to have to disclose his VP pick in the coming days here. We're at June 24th. There's only 6 days left, 19 days to the convention, so you should see his pick coming up here. And he's, as you know, boxed himself in with respect. He immediately boxed himself in by saying a woman will be his pick. And then this issue of racial division in this country, some of it real, some of it ginned up, has put a lot of pressure on him as well to pick a woman of color, which gives him even more limited choices. And honestly, I've switched now to who I think he may pick. Of course, I had been saying for months that it would be Amy Klobuchar because that made sense. Right. But then Minnesota blew up on her almost literally. So she had to take herself out of it. Then the intensity of the racial division pushed a lot of people to believe that he would pick a woman of color, but the woman from Georgia has pleased no one in her nonstop, Stacey Abrams, of course, her nonstop campaigning for the job, which, is rather unseemly. In history, actually, presidents, we recently saw the series on Grant, presidents did not even campaign for themselves. Lincoln didn't campaign for himself. So the notion that you'd campaign to be a VP pick even before you're chosen would have offended a lot of people in the old days, but what offended people in the past apparently is different now. You might have noticed that.
Yeah.
And
yes.
and so I now think a lot of people, of course, George, are looking at Kamala Harris, but Kamala Harris' family owned slaves. So where would that leave the party if they picked her? She's actually not African American. Her descent is different. It's Indian in significant part, but she plays that issue or card, however you want to describe it. But look, if you're tearing down statues on the left because of their connection to slavery, then how do you pick her as your VP? Doesn't that end it for her?
Yeah. I think Biden's family owns slaves as well. I remember reading that.
I don't remember seeing that. Although the most delicious that I've seen so far is the fact that the city of Berkeley is named after an Irish bishop who came over and had a plantation in Rhode Island, and of course had slaves. And of course, UC Berkeley is named after the same person. So that, to me, that's the most delicious of all.
And of course, Yale.
Yes, yeah.
So I mean, it's all these liberal institutions
that currently liberal that weren't liberal back then. But look, I think if the city of Berkeley has to change its name, I think that would be hysterical. Anyway, back to the VP choice. I'm beginning to think, despite her complicity in all these bad things, that Susan Rice is climbing up the ladder of potential choices. Or he may just go safe because, you know, his left will forgive him to a significant degree. But he may just go safe with Elizabeth Warren. And the reason why I say that's a safe pick is even though she claimed to be a woman of Indian descent, you know, the left has forgiven her for that, and she's gone through the campaign. But the risk with her, of course, is Wall Street, if you recall, last October, basically told Biden, if you pick her, not Biden, told the Democrats, if you pick her, we're not going to go with you. So I'm not sure where, you know, if you can figure this out, let me know. But
I think I agree with your thoughts, but I like you don't have the answer because there's, you know, too many kind of wild card variables. But I feel like Susan Rice is rising too, and I'm not quite sure exactly why, because she first burst on the scene lying to us about Benghazi. And I remember when I first heard her on the Sunday morning shows lying about Benghazi, I knew at the time it was a lie. It was such an implausible lie that just based on readily available, publicly available information, I didn't have any private briefings. I knew what she was saying wasn't true. Mostly common sense, quite frankly. It just didn't pass the straight face test. And then, you know, the stupid memo is itself. We're doing this all by the book. By the book. We're doing this by the book, you know. Oh, did I mention we're doing this by the book? It's like, okay, why are you spending so much time telling us that? No one's asked that question, but you seem to keep bringing it up in her email to herself. Yes. You know, so I don't know. I mean, it sounds to me like she's a pathological liar, but definitely a team player.
Yeah. So okay. So overall, to me, in my mind, and of course you know this, when you're the nominee, the working assumption is that your party is together and you move towards the center to try and pick off independents and potential people from the other party who may be disaffected. But so far, to this date, Joe Biden seems to have to keep reaching back to the left because the Democrats are divided. There is, to a significant extent, a fight within the Democrat Party of, you know, between the socialist wing, the AOC wing, which is slightly different. I mean, you can be a socialist like Bernie Sanders and not be a revolutionary per se. AOC is more revolutionary in her attack. I mean, I don't think Bernie Sanders, if he in his heart of hearts would say we should get rid of the police force, but you see an AOC would, and so even within that wing, the Democrats are divided, and this whole issue of BLM and would they accept Kamala Harris, who once had slaves? Would they? They've already said that the Congresswoman from Florida, who was formerly of the police department and now in Congress, they wouldn't accept her. So the Democrats remain a divided party, and so he seems to still have to unify them before he can reach out, all of which brings us to the polls. Not sure if you have a break coming up here.
Yeah,
but
we probably ought to hit the break and use that as our tease for the next segment. But I think you're making some great points, and I'm glad you can stick around because we can tie all this together in the second segment. But the polls are interesting, and I think you're right about the division because you've nailed it as to how electoral politics work. But we're up against the clock, and so I just want to remind our listeners, this is the Conservative Commandos. Don't forget our website, ccrshow.com. Tom Del Beccaro and I will be right back after these messages.
Are you a veteran and are you a homeowner? Then think Streamline and maybe save yourself a few $100s every month on your mortgage. A VA Streamline refinance. It's called a rate reduction loan because mortgage interest reduction is exactly what it does. It's just for veterans and it lowers your mortgage rate so you can save on mortgage payments every month, every year. That's a lot of money saved. And it's so easy to qualify. You don't need pay stubs, a W-2, or bank statements. You don't need a home appraisal. It's fast and easy to apply. And mortgage interest rates are very low right now. So a VA Streamline refinance makes it super easy and super affordable to take advantage of this opportunity and really cut your monthly mortgage payments. Veteran and homeowner? Call us to find out more. 888-893-7491. 888-893-7491.
Do you have an idea for an invention, but you don't know what to do next?
How do you get in front of companies or get a patent?
Call InventHelp. They've been helping inventors just like you for 35 years.
And thousands of people contact them every month.
With 65 offices, you can meet with an InventHelp representative near you who will keep your idea confidential and explain their invention process step by step. InventHelp has helped over 10,000 inventors get patents. And they offer 3D animations and prototyping services to help demonstrate your idea. InventHelp's exclusive databank includes over 9,000 companies who have agreed to confidentially review new ideas, like yours.
Don't wonder what to do next. Take action right now and get the help you need from InventHelp.
InventHelp. Call today for free information.
800-880-2937. That's 800-880-2937 now.
Is your credit card debt driving you batty? We're going up! Just like your credit card fees and interest rates. To the top! With those sky-high payments! You can't forget about your debt. Always fear! The debt suckers are here!
Are your payments sucking the life out of you? Just one call to Consolidated Credit can get the debt suckers off your back. Consolidated Credit will lower your interest rates, consolidate your bills into one easy payment, and get you out of debt fast. Call Consolidated Credit and get your life back.
Call 1-800-201-8213. 1-800-201-8213. That's 1-800-201-8213. 1-800-201-8213.
When debt is the problem, Consolidated Credit is the solution.
Because debt sucks!
Attention Viagra and Cialis users. Are prescription drugstore prices too costly? Get 50 generic pills for only $99. That's right, 50 100 milligram generic Viagra for only $99. Our products have the same active ingredients as the brand name products. Money back guaranteed if you're 100% not satisfied. Get 50 generic pills for only $99. Order now and call the number on your screen. Have your credit card ready.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos, the radio show and the television show. Thanks to AUN TV Network on television and the Conservative Commandos radio network on the radio. And of course, Al Gore's amazing internet. We really are everywhere. Well, almost everywhere. China, North Korea, Iran, probably not so much. I think their government would probably filter us out. After all, they're not big fans of freedom, and we are. But I'm George Landrith of the Conservative Commandos. I'm glad you're here. I want to remind you, if you want a rebroadcast of our show, check out our website, ccrshow.com. Tom. We've been talking with Tom Del Beccaro. He is just an all-around smart guy, but he has been former chair of the Republican Party of California and a U.S. Senate candidate from California. And he's also the author of The Divided Era, a book I think you should check out. But we've been talking with Tom about the political landscape, what's going on. And Tom, I thought you made a great point when you said that the Democratic Party is very divided. And the evidence of that, you don't need even a poll to tell you that, even though we're going to get some polls on presidential elections, because like you said, the process is you dash to the extreme generally to get the nomination, and then you swing back once you've got it. Joe Biden's had it now for, 2 months almost? And he's been not dashing back. He's continuing to drift to the left. So I think you nailed that one. But anyhow, I just wanted to kind of bring somebody came in.
I don't quite see how he gets away from, some of these positions. I mean, putting AOC on the committee regarding Green New Deal, I don't see her as a team player. Honestly, the Democrats don't see her as a team player. So will she throw a tantrum between now and whenever? But if we switch, to polls and where things are right now, of course, there's a lot of us for years, you included, who are wondering the value of polls and how suspect are they? Because, I mean, Trump, the media the other day, talking about how the New York Times said Trump's rally fizzled, or, on and on and on. Joe Biden, he can't even hold a rally. Could you imagine him even attempting to speak for an hour? So here's a guy in relative seclusion running for president, and they're after Trump. Now, look, it turns out that some people did stay at home instead of attend the rally. If they tell you're going to die if you show up, who's to be surprised? But we saw now that this is the largest viewed rally on TV in American history. Some 20 million viewers. That's an unbelievable number of people looking in. So elections are about who shows up on election day, and the question becomes, therefore, who's got the enthusiasm? And I think you and I have talked about this before. Simply asking the question among a group of Democrats and a group of Republicans on any given day, let's say tomorrow, if you ask 10 Democrats who they're going to vote for, 9.2% of them, or 92% of those 10, are going to say the Democrat. That's just how divided we are. And the same holds true for the Republican. Now, people over the years have always said, the people in the middle decide the election, but this is becoming more and more true every day because the parties are that far apart. I mean, you saw what Nancy Pelosi said this week when she said, we're going to win the House, the Senate, and the White House, and the long national nightmare will be over. That is just an indication of how separated we are. So if we look at independence and we look at enthusiasm, I just don't see how anyone can claim there's enthusiasm on the left for two reasons. One, Joe Biden. I mean, come on. The guy's not even capable of campaigning. You saw there was a poll that said that of the reason you're voting for Joe Biden is because you want Biden or you're against Trump, and it was 2-1 against Trump. So he is not an inspiring figure, and we alluded to the other issue of enthusiasm among Democrats, which is their deep division. If you're fighting, if a party's fighting among itself, it doesn't tend to turn out on election day. And the best example of that in the television era is, of course, 1968, when the Democrats, you had Lyndon Johnson running. He didn't even lose to Eugene McCarthy in those primaries, but McCarthy did well and Johnson dropped out. They continued to have primaries, but there was a fight over Vietnam. Should we be in there? Should we not? Hubert Humphrey tried to organize them, and And, Hubert Humphrey was not a polarizing figure. He very much wanted the party to be together, but he couldn't do it. And that division cost them turnout votes on election day. So if we have an election day where Joe Biden is their nominee with his enthusiasm problems, you have the Green Party siphoning off votes because they haven't gone far enough left. You have the fight between the AOC ranks and the rest of the Democrats over the soul of the party, if you will. I just don't believe the current polls that show Biden up. I think it'll be a close election, but I just don't believe the polls.
That makes sense. I also think that Democrats are famous for overplaying their hand. And I would argue that...
the media with them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, well, then we repeat ourselves. The Democrats and the media, But bottom line, I would argue that while it's, I think, universally true that America was revolted by the video of George Floyd and the police officer and just how horrific that was. That was something that all Americans agreed on, which I think is evidence that we're not racist because there was virtual unanimity. And I think those issues now have sadly been overshadowed by weeks, almost a month, I guess. We're getting close to a month of violence, burning, to the point now where we're tearing down statues of people who won the Civil War. Yeah, even black soldiers, black groups that were volunteers to help the North defeat the Confederacy, even those are being defaced. So at some point, this isn't about, these people don't actually hate the Confederacy. This isn't about slavery. They just seem to hate America. And I think the average American is going to watch this and go, wait a minute. I totally on board with the idea that Black Lives Matter. I was totally on board with the idea that Floyd should not have been killed. That's horrible. But I'm not on board with the group called Black Lives Matter because it seems to me they have a different agenda. I don't sense, they've gone off on some other tangent now, and I don't think that helps the Democrats either because they're kind of seen as the operative for, and if you look at how the fundraising for Black Lives Matter goes, apparently it goes mostly to the Democratic Party. I think it's just kind of unseemly. So there's a lot of Americans who aren't terribly ideological, who I suspect are going to look at all this and just go, I am sorry, I can't be involved in that.
And to add to what you're saying, and I agree with everything you said, to add what you were saying, there's a Rasmussen poll out this week that showed that 64% of Americans weren't in on the defund the police agenda narrative. And as you, I think, correctly described, I think the Democrats are becoming almost branded or at least viewed upon as supportive of that, or certainly not speaking out enough against it. And so now we get to, we talked about the enthusiasm and the fighting in the Democrat Party, and you're speaking to what will independents do? Because independents, in my experience working in politics, independents are a third Democrat, a third truly in the middle, and a third Republican. And many of them don't like politics per se. Many of them become independent because they don't want to get the mail or the phone calls from the parties. And most of them just want government to function at some level of how shall I say, rationality, right? Yeah. And so what they're seeing, is government non-functioning. How do you look at Seattle where there's now shootings, right? And when they go to move those people out, that's going to be
the summer of love.
That's going to be America's Tiananmen Square, I think. I can't see them. I mean, if I'm the mayor of that city now, I was elected last night on how to deal with this. I hope they're sitting down behind the scenes, convincing these people to leave peaceably, because otherwise it's just going to be horrific. And so I tend to think that come election day, independents are going to go, yeah, I don't like Trump, but my God, the other side?
Yeah. They're burning the country down and they want to get rid of the cops. Not a good message.
Yeah, and people get that. And among in that Rasmussen poll, the group most concerned was African Americans. They're the ones who live in the inner city.
No, exactly. They're you know, if you live in the suburbs where there's less crime, that's probably, you know, you don't see police that often, and it's not as scary to think of life without them. But if you live in a rougher section of town, I would think that you kind of understand that you may not like the way every policeman has ever treated every person you know, but you understand that most of them are there actually to keep you safe.
100%.
So, well, our time's up, but Tom, I want to ask you to make sure you tell us how we can follow the work that you do. I know you've got you're working on some issues with the governor of California. We've got, you know, Tom Del, you know, your book, The Divided Era. Give us the rundown on how we can get all of the wisdom that you have.
Well, you could go to carevival.com and join our effort to, we're trying to preserve Prop 13 out here. You know, they want to put in racial quotas in California. We're fighting against that. Of course, we're supporting the recall. Or you can go to politicalvanguard.com, catch up on all of these things. George, I always appreciate you having me on. And I'd like to pick next week's or the week after's topic, but the whole world could change by then, so we'll have to hold off.
I'm looking forward to a slow news day eventually. But I don't see it on the horizon right now.
Exactly. All right.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on with us. It's been great to have you. To our listeners, don't go away. The Conservative Commandos will be right.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos, the radio show carried on the Conservative Commandos radio network and the TV show carried on the AUN TV network, and of course, both carried everywhere on Al Gore's amazing internet. Well, I say everywhere, but the asterisk is probably not in China, North Korea, or Iran. Because my understanding is they don't approve of the things that Dan Gainor and I talk about, you know? The regime's there. But everywhere else, we're good to go. We truly are everywhere else. If you want to get a rebroadcast, check out our show. Check out our website, and you'll get information on the show, ccrshow.com. I'm pleased to introduce Dan Gainor. He's the Vice President for Business and Culture at the Media Research Center. He's a veteran editor who's had his work published in basically everywhere you can think of. If I gave you the full listing, I'd eat up half of his time. But suffice it to say, he's well published in all the places you'd want to be published if you were writing. But I'm really glad to have Dan on because, to be honest, Dan, you always provide a really good perspective of what's happening in the media. I think most of us have a generalized idea that the media isn't always fair, that the media sometimes slants things, but you really put the meat on the bones and make it more than just a generalized allegation. If you were a trial lawyer, you basically bring forth the evidence and put it in such a way that no reasonable jury could disagree. So with that, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks. Unfortunately, the media are no longer a reasonable jury. I'm not sure they've ever been, but they're really not one now.
That's for sure.
So we're in a time of history where, global events are washing over the land. And I don't understate that. We are living through a time that your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren will read about in history books. 2020 will go down in history as a pivotal year. The question is, in what way? And the jury is still out on that. But what we're watching right now is, in America and around the world, we're seeing the rise of a global leftist revolution. So, and people say, oh, you're just slamming Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is a self-described Marxist operation. Doesn't mean everybody in the streets who's protesting, many of them protesting for good reason. You and I were talking right before this about how we were equally appalled by what happened to Mr. Floyd. It's just unassailably wrong. Just horrendously wrong. And I would argue the same thing happened to Eric Garner and others. But that doesn't destroy America. That doesn't mean America is inherently bad. You could find examples where people of other races have also had bad run-ins with police or government. It happens. In a nation of 330 million people, we're going to have some problems.
Yeah, even if it's only 0.1% of 1%, it's still, run the math on that. It's going to be a lot of problems.
Well, just to do the 1%, there are roughly 800,000 police out there on the streets. If each of them makes, just 1% of them makes one mistake a year, so 8,000 cops, not 800,000 cops, 8,000 cops make one mistake. They curse out somebody they're arresting, they rough up somebody just a little bit, they're a little bit rude, they do whatever they do on any scale from, minor, venial sin to, mortal sin kind of scale. Whatever they do, if you do that, you're talking about more than 20 incidents a day. So we know, since they don't have more than 20 incidents a day, we know that's not the percentage. What you're talking about is a very, very small percentage of police who are bad. And you're going to have bad people in any industry. Journalism. Look, you've got, CNN. That's a good joke right there. Right. You've got whole outlets in journalism now that are devoted to pushing forth an anti-American narrative. New York Times. And so, by comparison, it's no comparison. Yes, some of the people who have done wrong in the police department have done extraordinary wrong. Killing people. So no one is downplaying that. But what we are saying, and what the press is not saying, is that this doesn't mean that America is foundationally racist. New York Times got this crazy 1619 project that claims we're racist from day one and it affects everything. No, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. But
if we were racist, how did we elect Barack Obama as a nation? I mean, I didn't vote for him, but it wasn't because of his skin color. It was because I didn't like the ideas that he was promoting. But the point is, America elected him.
Yeah, to this day, I still hope that Barack Obama has, ironically, a sort of come to Jesus moment for politics, and decides to be conservative. I think he'd be a great spokesman for conservative movement. You know, hey, I said all this and did all this dumb stuff when I was president, and that was a bad idea. That would be wonderful, but not holding out hope for that one. So instead, what we've got is watching corporate media and corporate businesses compete in the woke Olympics. Who can be more leftist than the other person? Who can ruin your brand faster? And so, this week we've watched NASCAR. Now, I will freely confess I'm not a current NASCAR fan. Haven't been one for many years, but at some time or another, you can't find a major American sport, and frankly, even some that weren't American, Australian rules football, for example, or darts, that I didn't spend a good chunk of time watching at some point in time. I liked watching sports. So yes, I watched tennis for a while. I watched indoor soccer, outdoor soccer, everything. And so I watched NASCAR at one point. So you've got this case where Bubba Watson, his pit crew tells him, we found a noose. Now, if I came to my office tomorrow and found something that I thought was a exclamation of racism in my office, I wouldn't just go online and say, I would take a photo, I would make sure it was an investigation, I would call in the FBI, which they did, and I wouldn't go off talking about it until I knew what was going on. Cart, horse, keep them in the right order.
Sequence matters.
But that's not what they did. So instead they went crazy and freaked out about it. And then suddenly Bubba Watson's got egg on his face because the FBI says, no, there really wasn't a noose. It was a door handle, a door pull for a garage door. So of course it's going to be a loop that hangs down because you put your hand in it, you pull down the darn garage. But we live in an era where that freaks everybody out. NASCAR stood by Watson, but that many of us really knew that this was not likely going to pan out. We talked among ourselves because you got skewered if you dared raise that question.
Oh yeah. I mean, he even got angry with people who asked if this was real or not, or suggested it was a Jesse Smollett thing, and it now looks like it probably was.
And so, but they're still hyping it.
Yeah, they do.
Shows like NASCAR are still out there. Oh, it's a bad thing. No, it's a good thing. What we found out is good news. Yeah. It was not a racial attack. Yeah. It was somebody making one of the most basic things. If you're hanging something, making a loop and tying some knots around it so that it held in place.
Yeah, if you've seen a picture of it, it literally, you can tell it's not actually a noose. You can tell it's something to put your hand in and pull because, in a home garage door isn't that high up, but in an industrial garage door, it's up when it opens, it leaves quite so you can bring in tall vehicles, trucks, etc. So it's a long ways up. You have to have something to pull it down because once you put it up, unless you're, an NBA All-Star center and have a small mini tramp to jump off of, you won't get it back down. You need you need to hang down.
There were a lot of jokes about this afterwards, people posting pictures of garage doors and calling them racist and all sorts of stuff. Oh, yeah. But the result is what happened here didn't push forth the narrative of solving racial problems in America. What it did is put forth the narrative that a lot of this is BS.
Yeah, no, that's true. And that's unfortunate because racism should be a serious topic, but what they end up doing is devaluing it to the point where most people just shake their head and go, oh yeah, it's not real, it's not a big problem. And I would argue that we don't need to label everything racist. When something is racist, call it what it is. But anymore, because it should be taken seriously. But when everything's racist, nothing is, quite frankly. To quote the Incredibles, If you know,
Yes, if everybody's superpower if everybody's a superhero, then nobody is.
Right, exactly. But we are up against the break.
Very, very similar. I mean, we're in an era now, but you're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to make these points, because if you're on social media, they'll silence you. How dare you say anything against Black Lives Matter?
Yeah. And it's not the concept that Black Lives Matter. It's the group that has a completely different agenda that you'd be speaking against anyhow. Nobody's suggesting that Black lives don't matter. All they're saying is their agenda isn't a good one. But we are up against a break. So we will thankful that you can stick around for another segment, because there's lots more to talk about. There always is, and you're always interesting. So thank you. Just remind our listeners, this is the Conservative Commandos, and Dan Gainor and I will be right back after these messages.
Mom, thank God you're going to be okay.
So relieved. But you both should know, when my time comes, I have a final expense policy with Senior Care USA.
Is Senior Care USA the life insurance policy that helps loved ones pay for funeral expenses and other debts? Bill and I called to get more information.
Yes, and there's an immediate payout of up to $50,000.
If you're over 50, call Senior Care USA now to learn more about final expense insurance plans.
There's no medical exam, even if you have a pre-existing condition like I do. When I called, the quote was free, and there was no pressure.
I found out that policies start for as little as 35 cents a day. Rates will never increase and coverage won't decrease.
I'm going to call today.
Ask about the free prescription discount card. Oh, I'm so glad you'll be taken care of.
Call 1-800-822-7419. That's 1-800-822-7419.
But is it? It's really just the beginning, right? Have you written a book and want it published but don't know where to start? You're not alone. Page publishing cuts through the confusion that most new authors face, like copyright protection, barcodes, printing, and digital uploading. We will get your book into bookstores now. We guide you through the publishing maze and help you distribute and sell your work in hard copy and ebook formats. That's right. We will digitize and place your book for sale on Amazon, Apple iBooks, and Google, offering it to millions. Don't waste another minute. Most publishers won't even look at new author submissions, but we're different. We review your book and provide you feedback in about a week. If we decide to publish your book, your work ends and ours begins. From copy editing and proofing to typesetting and book cover art, our team gets you into bookstores fast.
Call 1-877-461-5033.
Does your current bathroom need to be updated immediately? Introducing one-day bath and shower remodeling. The complete and hassle-free way to get the new bathroom of your dreams in as little as 1 day. And for as little as $1.99 a month. Yes, the experts at One Day Bath and Shower Remodeling will come to you anywhere in the country and show you all the customized options. Now you can have a brand new bathroom in as little as 1 day. Large or small bathrooms, if you want a new bathtub or shower installed, we can do it in as little as 1 day. And if you call right now, you can save $750 off your remodel. We make it easy by offering you financing as low as $199 per month. So for as little as $199 a month, you can finally have the bathroom of your dreams. Call now to schedule your free in-home consultation.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos, the radio show and the television show, carried on the AUN TV network and the Conservative Commandos radio network, broadcast all across this great nation. I'm George Landrith, and I am glad you stuck around. We've been talking with Dan Gainor, and it's been a great interview, and it's going to be another great segment. But if you missed the first segment, check out our website. You can get a rebroadcast, ccrshow.com. Of course, just for those who are just joining us, Dan Gainor is the Vice President for Business and Culture at the Media Research Center, and he's always both informative and I think entertaining because he has an interesting way of describing the things that he studies and is aware of. So I appreciate, Dan, you spending your time with us today. Right before the break, we were talking about some of the things going on and with the unrest and I've noticed that if you call people who are burning down buildings and toppling statues and vandalizing and stealing. I even saw a video of people busting in with sledgehammers into banks through the drive-through windows. If you call them rioters, that's racist. They're protesters.
Well, that's bunk. So it's a pleasure to be on Radio Free Conservative Commandos. Because there's not many places that are still free. You can't go online and be free. You can't travel in most of our major cities and be free. We've had repeated examples just in the last 24 hours of the thugs, because not protesters, thugs or rioting scum or gutter trash.
And for the record, if someone say it's racist, I've noticed that a large percentage of them are white, and I'm sure you have too. So this is not about the race or skin color; it's about the activity they're engaged in.
Right, it's bad behavior. It is punching people. It is kicking journalists to the ground. It's trying to attack Andrea Mitchell. This is where they are. They're a rabble. And they were, we're going to tear down Andy Jackson's statue has been there, I think, since 1858. So think about that. 172 years old statue for a guy who protected the United States and kept the British from taking New Orleans and basically really harming the new nation. Guy that basically, also, fought for our country, and the left hates him. But the left also hates Union generals. They tear down the statue of Ulysses Grant. They hate Cervantes, who was actually a slave. They hate Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah, well, they attacked
Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, that's
right. Well, they even attacked a monument to that was the first all-black unit that fought on the Union side during the Civil War, and they defaced that one. It's like they were freed slaves fighting for the Union.
The alleged anti-fascist, vandalized the World War II memorial that is dedicated to the world's greatest anti-fascist.
Right. The people actually were anti-fascists.
so look, I think it's important to understand what's going on. This is a global leftist revolution. I can't say that enough because people don't understand it. This is not Black Lives Matter. This is not kneeling down because somebody was murdered by the police. This is a revolution that is intended to overturn America, Western civilization, Christianity, conservatives, down the line. And to accomplish that, they want to destroy American history. They want to erase it. Because if you erase it, anything you write down becomes the new record. Oh, hey, you say you were 42 when you did this. We think you were too young for that, so we're going to make it 50. They can do it. The press and the left already have an unhealthy power over media and academia. And they're not even left-wing enough. You look at these protests and these riots, they attack CNN's headquarters.
I know. I was flabbergasted. And I noticed that CNN's coverage in the final, right after that was really pro-protester or rioter. Yeah. It was interesting. I mean, it seemed to, maybe it had the effect they were hoping for, which was to ensure the sort of coverage they wanted.
Well, what effect they're really hoping for, what they're doing by going around and tearing down statues, is they are trying to goad the president into action. They want blood on the streets, to use the old expression. They want to confront police enough that somebody can pull a gun, act out in some particular way, and then, of course, the police respond. They want the police in D.C., in L.A., in Cincinnati or Baltimore or New York, they want the police to beat heads. There's not a thing that they wouldn't do to have that happen, because if they get police beating heads, they'll get 10 more Kent State videos. That's what they're looking for. They don't care about what happens. They simply care about the long-term result. They're in this for the long game.
Right. Yeah, this is one of those crises they're going to make sure that they don't let go to waste. They're going to fan the flames, pour fuel in the flames, and make sure they maximize the tragedy and use it to their full political advantage, which is why I don't take them seriously when they say they're for Black lives, because they're not for Black lives, because they don't care about the shootings that happened on Father's Day, where a bunch of kids were killed by drug dealers. And they don't care about the tens of thousands of babies who are killed in Planned Parenthood abortion mills. And
you see it. I mean, you see it every day now. How bad this is.
Yeah.
And it's not just bad here. They're having riots in Britain, riots, in other places around the world. You're having protests scattered across the world. They don't care about Black lives in those places. It's a tool being used by the left to push forth the global leftist revolution.
Yeah, and it's sad. They ought to care about lives, because lives do matter. Part of the Western civilization and is based on the Christian belief that we're all children of God and that we have inalienable rights because He gave them to us. And so it's very weird to me to see an organization pretending to care about life that clearly doesn't, and just to use it for their own political purposes.
Yeah, now that's I think very astute, that they don't care, and so they don't pay any attention. If you say, well, Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, was a racist eugenicist who spoke in front of the KKK wives at one point, they don't want to take it seriously. It's astonishing.
Oh, that was a different era, or something stupid like that.
Yeah. At least we're not going to be calling each other out for our gender and our race, which is also now common on the left. The people who, 10 years ago would have celebrated J.K. Rowling as the most forward-thinking person in the world. Now, she's the enemy. She's still extraordinarily radical, pro-LGBT. But they treat her like she's the enemy because she dared disagree with them.
Right. You cannot disagree. No disagreement allowed on the left.
Amen.
The thought police. Well, Dan, our time's about up, but I do want to ask you to tell us how we can follow your work, because I love having you on the show, but and maybe I should have you on every single day, but in lieu of that, we have to make sure that people can actually follow the work that you all are doing every day, because you're doing great work.
Well, the first thing to do is to go to newsbusters.org, and that's where our blog is, and start there. I also write regularly for Fox. I ordinarily write a column, but you and I were talking off air. I fractured my clavicle a couple months ago, and I'm still on the DL for that. So I write sometimes, but I don't write every a set time. So you look for me there. You should sign up for our newsletters. You should sign up and get involved. And if some of your listeners have serious coin of the realm, they should support us that way as well. We are a nonprofit, and we are fighting for the soul of Western civilization and trying to preserve it.
Well, I appreciate the work that you do, and the media, of course, has become a real, quite frankly, antagonist to Western civilization. So thank you for fighting that battle. Always a pleasure to have you, Dan. It's been a great conversation. To our listeners, don't go away. The Conservative Commandos will return after these messages, but I do want to remind you about our website. You can get information, rebroadcast, the whole 9 yards, ccrshow.com.
Attention homeowners. Do you have a house that's in need of serious repairs? Do you have tenants that never seem to make their monthly payments? How about code violations, past due taxes, or maintenance costs you just can't afford? Then call my friends right now at Quick Cash Offer. They specialize in buying any home, no matter how ugly the situation. Turn that problem property into cash right now. It's just that simple. One call and you can get rid of that home headache forever. They buy the ugliest houses with instant closings, instant cash, and huge savings. Plus, there are no realtor fees, no listing fees, and no repair costs. Just cash in your hands for that painful property. They're buying a few more houses in your neighborhood this month. So take advantage of this cash offer and call Quick Cash Offer now.
855-296-8854. 855-296-8854. That's 855-296-8854.
Listen carefully. If your student loan debt is overwhelming you and things seem hopeless, we've got great news.
If you're still struggling with your student loan debt, there are government programs available that may actually lower your payments by consolidating your federal student loans. Just call us. We'll review your situation and work with you to consolidate your debt. In many cases, depending on your situation, we can lower your monthly payments in half or more. It doesn't matter how much you owe or how far behind you are. Even if you're in default, call us right now to find out how we can lower your payment in half immediately. You can stop the harassing phone calls and the wage garnishments. All you need to do is pick up the phone and call us right now. We can remove your default status, consolidate your federal student loans, lower your payments, and we can do it today. Stop worrying. This is a real solution that can help. So please call us right now.
Call 800-917-8671.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you and all seniors from the Final Expense Insurance Hotline. The average funeral costs about $7,000, even more. And the most government benefits will pay your family is only $255. That leaves your loved ones with a burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay up to $30,000 for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam and you'll have lifetime coverage. Plus, your rates will never increase and your plan cannot be canceled regardless of your medical condition, as long as you make your premium payments. Get free information right now. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 855-221-7334.
Do you have an idea for an invention, but you don't know what to do next?
How do you get in front of companies or get a patent?
Call InventHelp. They've been helping inventors just like you for 35 years.
And thousands of people contact them every month.
With 65 offices, you can meet with an InventHelp representative near you who will keep your idea confidential and explain their invention process step by step. InventHelp has helped over 10,000 inventors get patents. And they offer 3D animations and prototyping services to help demonstrate your idea. InventHelp's exclusive databank includes over 9,000 companies who have agreed to confidentially review new ideas, like yours.
Don't wonder what to do next. Take action right now and get the help you need from InventHelp.
InventHelp. Call today for free information.
800-880-2937. That's 800-880-2937 now.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos, the radio show and the television show, thanks to both the Conservative Commandos radio network, which is broadcast all across this great nation, and the AUN TV network, broadcasting in California and Nevada. We are also carried, of course, everywhere else on the planet, with the possible exception of China, North Korea, and Iran, on Al Gore's amazing internet. We truly are everywhere, almost everywhere. And so we're glad you're here. This is the place to be. Just want to remind you, if you want a rebroadcast of our show, check out our website, ccrshow.com. I'm pleased to introduce and hopefully make feel welcome our next guest. Benton Howser. He's a financial expert. He's a financier. He's a hedge fund manager. Before that, he spent his time in Washington, D.C. with a think tank working on economic issues, mobility. He also worked on monetary policy, and he's spent a lot of time looking at how policy impacts the marketplace. So you might imagine we might talk about a little bit of that. But at any rate, he's also a captain in the Army Reserve. He got his bachelor's degree from he's a Hokie from Virginia Tech, and he got his MBA from the University of Illinois. And he's also been a registered investment advisor in Illinois. So with that, Benton, welcome to the Conservative Commandos.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, the market is an interesting and an important topic. It both impacts politics and is impacted by politics. And, we had a market that seemed to be very strong. Let's say we go back to, January 15th. It, was hitting record highs. The talk was how much higher it was going to go. I don't know if you felt it was going well, but most people I talked to just kind of felt pretty good about the world. And then, a month and a half later, we'd lost almost 30% or 40% of the market value. People saw their life savings evaporating, etc. Maybe you can put that into context for us. Was that a fundamental weakness in the economy? Was it something else? Was it the Chinese COVID virus? And then looking forward, what do you see on the horizon, and how will politics affect this? And then maybe in the second half of our conversation later, we can get into some of the politics leading up into November, because I think there's an election this year, I remember reading somewhere.
Well, to the first point, this was the most economically unprecedented event ever. I mean, the only comparables would be a country being invaded. You'd never stop your entire economy before for something. That's one thing to take into account. Another big thing, with the stock market. So since the 80s and the reforms of the stock market and the retirement accounts from Reagan, we've had much broader participation in the stock market. So now we have this dynamic where many, especially people over 50, senior citizens, have large exposure to the equity markets. So the stock market of 29, for instance, didn't have the type of impact it did directly as this one did. Now, however, that had lasting effects, and that went down eventually 90% for 20 years. Now, here, this was driven mainly by the economy completely stopping. And so one of the reasons you said there was a 20% or 40% loss was because there's two big variables in the stock market right now that are completely different. One is that the large cap companies are doing much better than the average companies. So if you look at the Russell versus the S&P 500, there's, at one point there was a 10-point difference. So the smaller companies are really undervalued right now because they're not getting the revenues that they did last year. So, and then the big cap companies ever since 2009, we're going up a lot because of buybacks, and that was fueled by the low interest rates, which, the Fed came in this time. They pumped a lot of money in the market. Those big cap companies are well positioned to get good financing to buy back more stock, which keeps their stocks stable, or in the case of Apple and Microsoft and Amazon, even, they keep going up and up. So
interesting. Let's look a little bit at this question, because I think, as we look at what's going forward right now, we've got social unrest. We still have the COVID kind of casting a shadow, even though I think, we may be past certainly the worst of it, but it doesn't seem that we're yet past it, or at least its impact. What do you expect the market to do in that kind of uncertainty? Because my experience tells me, and I'm certainly not as experienced as you, so I'm just going to, you can shoot down whatever I say and just say, yeah, George, you're stupid. That's fine. I probably am. But bottom line is, markets generally want stability, because you're making investments, you're putting, in many cases, millions or billions of dollars into a game plan to provide a service or a good to the population, and you're not going to make that money back in a day or a week. So you need stability to know that this time next year things will be okay, and that you didn't just flush that money down the john. And I've heard people say that, even in the tax code, one of the most valuable things in the tax code would just be some stability. so that they know what the ground rules are. And tell us, kind of in this unstable environment where you've got social unrest and it's still the COVID kind of looming, what do you think the markets have to say to that? And like I said, we'll eventually get into the political side of that.
Well, you got to take into account, though, that most stock market crashes that's what's going on in the economy is the market itself is crashing, and that's the most risky, unstable aspect in the economy. In this instance, you got corporate bonds. If a company's not going to get revenue for a year or 6 months or 3 years, let's say Disney doesn't open for another 12 months, like how are they going to sustain themselves? And also you need to take into account the gains from that. So, in the 70s, you might have had hyperinflation, but you got 18% on treasuries. Now you get, 50 basis points. Like, you're talking in languages that most people don't, need a technical understanding to even understand how minuscule this is. You can save 50 basis points for your budget much easier than trading bonds. So, the stock market, could go up a lot more from here. Now, there's a lot of risks as well, so that's why it's not there already. Now, we were discussing the civil unrest. The Ferguson effect is a policing term, but it could also, go into the impacts of how civil unrest, if it's contained in certain pockets, actually has much more marginal effect than we would perceive. So, Chicago right now, the only thing that's a big revenue generator that got hit was luxury stores. And those were all already closed, actually, because of COVID. Most of the suburbs and the rural areas in this country, there's been no civil unrest. So it's a bigger perception issue, actually, than a pure dollars and cents issue at this point. So I would say how that would drive the political outcomes in the future is a bigger driver than the bottom lines of current businesses at the moment.
Interesting. So it sounds almost like COVID already shut down things, and the civil unrest isn't really adding to that. So while it's a perception, and I think it makes Americans nervous to watch all this on TV, you're saying the markets are probably already absorbed that damage from COVID, and this is just kind of, it's almost like setting fire to a house that's already been set fire to. You're not going to do much more damage to it.
Well, so that analogy applies to part of it. And then unfortunately, a lot of the areas that get hit by this are not big businesses that are represented in the stock market. So that was one of the things in Ferguson that caught my eye, and that's one of the things in a lot of these cities is, you go after, minority businesses. That's not Walmart or, and sometimes it actually helps Amazon,
yeah, they're probably doing well now.
They're doing well. You can look at, Wayfair. There's all these companies that are
right
direct to the consumer that are just going to be exploding, and you don't need small town America, and it's not exposed in the stock market. So that could be an underlying issue with our society, is how that's not incorporated into our financial mechanisms.
Right. So like mom and pop restaurants, mom and pop bicycle shops, whatever the smaller, non-national brand is, the suffering that they're doing is not actually showing up directly in the stock market because they're not stock-held companies. That makes sense. We are up against the break, but I'm glad you can stick around because there's lots more to talk about. And I think what we want to get into is kind of how some of these factors will play into the election. But I do want to remind our listeners that you can catch a rebroadcast of our show by checking out our website, ccrshow.com. It's all there. You can get us audio only, video and audio, you name it, television, radio. It's both. Don't go away. Benton Howser and I will be right back.
Are you a veteran and are you a homeowner? Then think Streamline. and maybe save yourself a few $100s every month on your mortgage. A VA Streamline Refinance. It's called a rate reduction loan because mortgage interest reduction is exactly what it does. It's just for veterans, and it lowers your mortgage rate so you can save on mortgage payments every month, every year. That's a lot of money saved. And it's so easy to qualify. You don't need pay stubs, a W-2, or bank statements. You don't need a home appraisal. It's fast and easy to apply. And mortgage interest rates are very low right now. So a VA Streamline Refinance makes it super easy and super affordable to take advantage of this opportunity and really cut your monthly mortgage payments. Veteran and homeowner? Call us to find out more. 888-893-7491. 888-893-7491.
Do you have an idea for an invention, but you don't know what to do next?
How do you get in front of companies or get a patent?
Call InventHelp. They've been helping inventors just like you for 35 years.
And thousands of people contact them every month.
With 65 offices, you can meet with an InventHelp representative near you who will keep your idea confidential and explain their invention process step by step. InventHelp has helped over 10,000 inventors get patents. And they offer 3D animations and prototyping services to help demonstrate your idea. InventHelp's exclusive databank includes over 9,000 companies who have agreed to confidentially review new ideas, like yours.
Don't wonder what to do next. Take action right now and get the help you need from InventHelp.
InventHelp. Call today for free information.
800-880-2937. That's 800-880-2937 now.
Is your credit card debt driving you batty? We're going up! Just like your credit card fees and interest rates. To the top! With those sky-high payments! You can't forget about your debt. Always fear! The debt suckers are here!
Are your payments sucking the life out of you? Just one call to Consolidated Credit can get the debt suckers off your back. Consolidated Credit will lower your interest rates, consolidate your bills into one easy payment, and get you out of debt fast. Call Consolidated Credit and get your life back.
Call 1-800-201-8213. 1-800-201-8213. That's 1-800-201-8213. 1-800-201-8213.
When debt is the problem, Consolidated Credit is the solution.
Because debt sucks!
Attention Viagra and Cialis users. Are prescription drugstore prices too costly? Get 50 generic pills for only $99. That's right, 50 100 milligram generic Viagra for only $99. Our products have the same active ingredients as the brand name products. Money back guaranteed if you're 100% not satisfied. Get 50 generic pills for only $99. Order now and call the number on your screen. Have your credit card ready.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos. Glad you stuck around. There's lots more to discuss. We've been talking with Benton Howser. Now, I do want to remind you, if you missed the first part of this interview, you'll want to catch it. You can go to our website, ccrshow.com, and get a rebroadcast. But I am glad you're with us. You're either following us on the Conservative Commandos radio network, the AUN TV network, or Al Gore's amazing internet. And I hope you're not reading this in a transcript because it won't carry the sarcasm in my voice as I say Al Gore's amazing internet. You'll think I'm an idiot because you'll think I think Al Gore invented the internet, but I don't. But anyway, we've been talking with Benton Howser, and he's a financial expert. He's managed money. He's also worked in policy and looked at economic issues. So he's well versed to talk about these things. And so Benton, thanks for sticking through the break. And I do want to kind of kick us off looking at policy questions because obviously, we've seen some improvement of late, but the reality is the country's hurting. So if someone made you the grand poobah of economic policy, what would be the things you would say we needed to do, whether it's nationally or locally or statewide in the various states, to kind of get us back on track, get people working again, and get businesses, thriving again?
Well, the first thing I do is try to eliminate as many barriers to hiring people as possible. So, the Trump administration is really pushing this payroll tax holiday. So there's a slight issue with that. So Milton Friedman brought this up a long time ago. It was businessmen factor in long-term costs. So if you hire someone with a 6-month tax holiday, then they're going to factor in the cost of that employee after the holiday ends. So it would probably be better if they just have a 5% payroll reduction, tax reduction, or something significant that's permanent. Now there's going to be political issues with that. The Democrats not going to want that. All their complaints about the Laffer curve actually apply to the payroll tax. Payroll taxes and sin taxes are the only two taxes that when you raise rates, you get more revenue. Everything else you lose a lot. So that would be a big thing. You got to get the liability waivers. We're a big society. You got a lot of places where you can get COVID. Just suing, an employer is just going to be way too easy. Where some restaurants that can open right now are just not because liability risks are too big. So we've got to have immunity for businesses like that in a responsible way. So that would be my first big thing.
That makes a lot of sense. Liability and threat of lawsuit kind of dictates so much in our society today. My understanding is if you want to buy a small airplane, that more than half the cost of the airplane is factored into liability issues. And it seems odd to me that a plane that was built 20 years ago and you can't predict how well it was maintained, or even if it was maintained. If it crashes, if you made the plane, even if the pilot crashed it into the side of a mountain because he was drunk, chances are you're going to have to pay some money. And it's just kind of a weird way to do business, because I would assume the manufacturer should only have to pay money if they did something wrong in the manufacturing process and produced a substandard product. But that doesn't seem to be how it works anymore.
Well, that's in aviation where most planes don't crash. Think about in healthcare, it's 30 to 50% is for liability insurance, and no one makes it out of life alive. So
that's true.
So that's everyone's going to get sick at some point. So the idea that the doctor is going to save you 100% of the time, yet half the bill is going to be so you can get insurance is how we're running our country right now. So that's why it's such a threat. We got maybe millions of lawyers, well at least hundreds of thousands of lawyers who would go around and shop for judges in good courts. And by good courts, I mean easy courts for liability lawsuits. I mean that's why Chicago has such a big legal industry, because you can donate to the judge's reelection campaign, and guess what? It's much easier to bring cases here than in Texas.
Yeah, I'm a lawyer, so I wish I could say, oh, come on, it doesn't work that way. Our system's better than that. We have the rule of law. But sadly, what you're saying rings true in many, many jurisdictions. And the things I learned in law school seem to be a quaint picture from the past. What I described about, the aviation, if they were at fault, sure, but and it's just, that's where we've gone nowadays. It's just, if the question is, do they have money? If they have money, then I'll sue them. And the courts will go, okay, sure.
Yeah.
But it used to be we asked, did they do something wrong? So it's a big drag. We all pay for it. Some people think, oh, that's great. No, you pay for that. You pay that in the terms of when you go to visit the doctor. You pay for it when you buy a product. It's factored into the price, and everything costs more so that trial attorneys can run around and pull this prank all the time. It's just not very funny. Pranks are supposed to be funny. This one's not funny.
That'll go back to my first point about we need to get rid of as many burdens as possible in terms of hiring people, because if there's higher costs, those are going to get transferred to everybody, and that's probably the biggest threat to inflation is if employment artificially costs significantly more. And that was one of the reasons why it ballooned in the 70s. You can blame monetary policy all you want, which plays a big deal. However, having costs that, to use a Trumpian word, are fake, it does not help anyone, and it that's actually the real trickle-down effect, is you can trickle down burdens to everyone else.
Yeah, that's the truth. Let's talk just quickly about how you see the election melding in with all this market stuff. I think when the market was going strong in January, most people, I saw polls that said even most Democrats thought Trump would win. Now the question is, with the economy being kind of on its back a bit and all this uncertainty, I've heard people say that that's put some of that into question, which I think doesn't shock me. But if the election on election day, there's some hope that the economy is improving and likely to continue to improve, I can't help but believe if the election is about who is better suited to getting the market and the jobs and opportunity flowing again, I don't think that's a race that Biden can win.
Probably not. So, we're going back to the 2016 question of, are we having an election that's about electoral college, or are we having an election about who's more intense on Twitter? So, a lot of these, protesters or rioters, whichever description you use, are in Democrat cities and Democrat states. No one thinks that New York's going to go to Trump, or even Washington, where Seattle's at, is going to go for Trump. So, it's really kind of coming down to Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Biden has to sweep all of those. And, right now they all have Democrat governors that had controversial lockdown policies that were extended against the scientific evidence, actually.
Yeah.
And
in many cases, they did stupid things like put sick people into elder care facilities and spread it like a wildfire. You saw that in New York. I think you saw that somewhat in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, maybe somewhat in Michigan too. I'm not sure about that one. But the point is, that was stupid. Because when they were doing that, we already knew. Because we knew from what we saw in the state of Washington. The first week, Jay Inslee, you might have to give him a pass. I'm not his defender. I'm just saying we didn't know then.
He was the first,
but we did later.
Yeah.
So it's just very frustrating. Well, our time is almost up, but I wanted to ask you if you could tell our listeners how they can follow the work that you do or your thought patterns, because I think people will appreciate the opportunity to have that perspective.
Well, you can. I got my Twitter handles at Benton Howser. Now, for what my thoughts, follow Brian Dimitrovic. So he writes a weekly column for Forbes. He's written about 3 books and hopefully a 4th one. That I'm working on with him right now in the near future. But that would be a great way of keeping up with what I'm doing.
Excellent. Sounds good. Well, Benton, we really appreciate you spending time with us. It's been very helpful to understand kind of the interplay between markets and politics and societal pressures and see how they all mix together to create this pretty complex web. But you've made it understandable and digestible. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, you are listening to Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landrith, and we are coming to the Conservative Commandos radio network, the AUN TV network, and of course, Al Gore's Amazing Internet. You can always get a rebroadcast of our show at our website, ccrshow.com. Don't go away. The Conservative Commandos will return.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Welcome back for the final brief segment of the Conservative Commandos program, the radio show and the television show. I'm George Landrith, and I apologize for the fact that I was the only co-host today. But like I said, the show had to go on despite our technical difficulties. But I do want to say thanks to our guests. They were great. Tom Del Beccaro, just always insightful and interesting. Dan Gainor, the same thing with the Media Research Center, always provides a really good perspective on what's going on in the media. And it was a real pleasure to hear from Benton Howser, a financial expert, to talk about what's going on in the markets and how they impact the politics and how the current events are impacting the markets. It's a complex web, and I felt like he made it a little easier to understand. But our time is up, and I want to thank you for joining us. My name is George Landrith. It was great to be with you today. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do that at glandrith, that's GLANDRITH, or you can follow me on at my website for Frontiers of Freedom. You can check us out there at www.ff2fs, just www.ff.org, ff.org. But our time is up. We got to run, we got to go. God bless, and we will see you tomorrow on TV and on radio.
Hey everybody, coming to you from my little Zoom studio here, and you need to hear this because you're being bombarded right now with these really over-the-top accusations against the president that he's got blood on his hands, that his denial and delay has cost lives, and that basically he took no action until it was too late. The question is any of this true? All right, let's start back in January. January 15th, the first patient with coronavirus enters the United States from Wuhan. That was also the same day that these impeachment pens were being handed out. But luckily, the administration was on top of it. A couple of days later, January 17th, they were already implementing screenings at San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York airports for flights coming in from Wuhan. But still, even about a week later, our mainstream media was still promoting things like this. Doctors saying, hey, this isn't a big deal, not much more dangerous than the flu. Nevertheless, President Trump did implement that travel restriction on January 31st, even though things like the World Health Organization were saying no need to limit trade and movement. And they largely criticized President Trump's travel restrictions. Same day, January 31st, that Nancy Pelosi proposed the No Ban Act, which would actually stop President Trump from implementing the life-saving travel restrictions that he did implement. So was everybody else really sounding the alarm at this point in time? No, of course not. Headlines like these were being written, and constantly, and by mainstream outlets. Again, I don't blame them. These are the facts they had at the time. Adam Schiff, the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, was getting regular updates in that committee. But he didn't even publicly talk about coronavirus until February 25th. And let's not forget that President Trump did talk about the coronavirus in the State of the Union on February 4th. What happened to that State of the Union? That happened. So fast forward a couple of weeks when the president actually asked Congress for supplemental funding to combat the virus, $2.5 billion. What did Nancy Pelosi do? Instead of putting that money on the House floor to be voted on, she put a bill to ban flavored tobacco. That was the priority of the Speaker of the House. You also hear a lot of criticism for Trump being overly optimistic. But this is what Nancy Pelosi was saying in late February, telling people to go out and enjoy themselves for the Chinese New Year.
Come to Chinatown. Here we are.
Same with Bill de Blasio in New York City. I want to be clear, I'm not blaming them either. We all have the same set of facts. Even around the world, places like Italy and Spain and Iran, their cases didn't start to spike until early March. And even they didn't lock down. Italy didn't lock down until March 10th. Spain didn't lock down until March 14th. Iran, not until April 4th. Places like Sweden didn't lock down at all. As these countries locked down, were we just doing nothing? No, of course not. President Trump implemented travel restrictions from Europe on March 12th. And what did the media say? All of that. All of that. Widespread criticism. How could you do this? What's the point of this? Well, does this really sound like an administration that's in denial about this? Of course not. And a few days later, we implemented our own 15 days to slow the spread, which then turned into 30 more days. Okay, fine, say the critics, but what about the PPE? We were well behind. We should have had more in the national stockpile. Yeah, that's true. The USA Today did a fact check on this. As it turns out, most of our stockpile was depleted after the H1N1 virus. Okay? And the Obama administration never replenished it. That's the truth. Am I blaming them? No, not really. They don't have a crystal ball. What about the testing? We were behind on that. And that's President Trump's fault, right? Well, no, not so simple. Early on, the CDC started to develop a test, but China refused to give them actual samples of the virus, so it was harder to make a test. And also, they didn't do a great job of it. Also, long-standing FDA regulations prevented our private industry from actually developing tests. The Trump administration reversed those regulations that had been around for well over a decade. This is the main point here. If we're going to look back in time and try to suggest that our government should have shut everything down back in February, well, where's the evidence for that? We're really going to shut things down when our cases hadn't really started to increase? When it barely started to increase in places like Italy or Iran? Of course not. They didn't shut things down until way later. Do you really think that we should have lost tens of millions more of jobs and livelihoods based on almost no evidence at the time? Is that really a reasonable expectation? Is that really a reasonable accusation? No, I don't think so. Listen, I don't want to blame Democrats for this at all. I don't think we should. I don't think there's a lot of people to blame for this, except for China, of course. It would be time for all of us to give each other a little bit of grace and understand that at the local, state, and federal level, everybody is doing their best to fight the pandemic. And we're going to need to stop the dishonest finger pointing as we move into the next phase, where we figure out how to reopen our economy and fight the pandemic alongside that. Thanks for listening.